Barbault's basket. Everybody's been talking about it. Oh my God, this is like an epic event. Never been seen before. 4, 4, 4, 4. Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter all having a conversation. And that conversation seems to indicate that it's time for humanity to shift to a different timeline, one where the greater good starts to become front and center rather than the interest of a few. So that's what it's looking like, Barbault's basket. And I woke up today. Today is the last day of that 444 configuration. It's 7/22/2026. I woke up today and the world looked pretty much the same. It's a hot mess. Nothing changed on the surface. But what I want to suggest is those fours, 4, 4, 4, 4, are seeds that got planted in our consciousness. And we're going to have to do something over the next few years to grow those seeds so that they come to their full manifestation. So this isn't like something just raining down. It's not manna from heaven that's just coming down without us doing something. We're going to have to do something to fulfill this opportunity. And so I asked the question, did we get excited for nothing? And the reason I ask that is because, everybody's just been talking about what it means as if we're going to come to this hard point in time, like in the near future where a switch is going to get flipped and all of a sudden humanity is going to be holding hands, singing Kumbaya, and we're going to be calling each other brothers and sisters and loving each other. And the people who are in the power positions are going to say, oh my God, this is my family. I need to do better by my family. No, it's not going to happen like that. But it can happen, but not like that. So I was looking up different quotes and different things that were said about this auspicious time that the cosmos has orchestrated through these energies. And the term splendid relaunch of civilization. The reflowering. Oh my God. It just sounds so amazing. A historical period where the old order breaks down and civilization restructures itself for the greater good. The most beneficial configuration is upon us. And it just sounds so awesome and magnificent. And this is what it looks like. On the right, we have Jupiter in Leo, trining Neptune in Aries, with a sextile to Uranus in Gemini. And Uranus forming a sextile back to Neptune. And on the left side, we have Uranus in Gemini, trining Pluto in Aquarius, sextile Neptune in Aries. And that Pluto forming a sextile back to Neptune. And then you've got the handle, Jupiter, forming an opposition to Pluto. And this configuration, it's going to be with us in some form for a little bit. Because Jupiter is going to move on. It only stays around in its sign for a year. So we're kind of at the beginning of it. So it's going to be around in this configuration, but it's going to move out of that opposition. So we want to look at what do these individual configurations mean? And then what's the big picture? What's the story the cosmos is trying to tell us that we're supposed to be living right now? And I want to say that we live in an age where we're used to things happening quickly. And we are living in an age where we've had disruption and we just want some relief. We want some relief. And unfortunately, the relief is not going to come immediately. It's not. It's not. We need to be prepared for that because evolution is slow. And this is an evolutionary party. It's a party. And we've all been invited. Every last human being has been invited to the evolutionary party. And really, this is an evolution of consciousness. And it's not a fast process. We've got to get enough people elevating their consciousness, and then the rest gets pulled along in the backdraft. And I want you to think of, I like the idea of the acorn of possibility, because within the acorn, everything is already within the seed for that magnificent oak tree to manifest. Everything is there. It's all there. Nothing's missing. And then the elements will provide the rest. The soil, the rain, the oxygen, the sunlight. Everything's right there. But do you know it takes about 1 to 2 months for that acorn to sprout? And it takes about 15 to 30 years for it to become a shade-bearing sapling. It's still not a tree. So I want you to know, relative to the acorn, what I'm seeing in this configuration is about 7 years. That's the Uranus. About 7 years, we can really create some momentum that will carry us through. And see, Pluto is going to be in its Aquarius configuration for about 20 years. For about 20 years. So I want you to think of the 4444 as seeds that have been planted. And now what we do with it is up to us. And I want to start by saying, don't get discouraged. We're going to have to go through some things. We've got to cross the bridge. Don't get discouraged. Don't get complacent. And don't feed the monster. Now, what is the monster? The monster is fear. The monster is anger. The monster is rage. The monster is hatred. The monster is despair. All those toxic emotions. And I'm not saying don't feel them. We need to feel them and let them process and move on. And then take that energy and use that energy to accomplish things. And so I want to talk about 2 things that we can do. 2 things. We can trust divine timing, because when we're working with the cosmos and astrology, in a way, we are actually starting to work consciously in the field of divine timing. And it's a gift. It's a gift that we can look at the stars, and we have our, astrology programs, and we don't have to calculate things by hand. And this is really a gift. And we can't see what the Creator is doing in the background and in the invisible. We can't see it, but we need to bring a state of trust into the picture, because our part is this much. And the Creator's part is like, extreme. Our part is this much. And this is where we need to focus our attention on this much. And then leave the rest in the hands of the Creator. And the cards will fall however they fall. That's not our business. And the second thing I want to tell you is we're talking about humanity as if there is this one entity called humanity, and we just got to get that one entity on board. Well, humanity is 8 billion people plus, right? And what has to happen is enough people have to make it personal to embody the power and the gift that is coming to us through this energy. Enough people have to make it personal. You're going to have to do something. And so you have your chart. And if you know anything about your chart, you've got your natal chart, which is static. But what we're looking at when we're talking about the Barbault basket, we're talking about the transits, that's ever moving. And so as the cosmos starts to interact with your natal chart, those 4 planets are going to start asking you to do certain things. It's going to start asking you to level up in certain areas. It's going to start asking you to let go of certain things. It's going to ask you to show up and be visible. It's going to ask you to give up some of that ego. Don't go into arrogance and the hubris and this, narcissistic society where we have leadership that is infected with narcissism. Not as a mental health thing, but as a personality. It's very narcissistic. And Pluto in Aquarius is going, no, that's going to stop. That's going to stop. And so you see Jupiter in Leo. The shadow side is the narcissist. The shadow side is the bad king. The shadow side is the dictator, the tyrant, the cruel ruler. That's the shadow side. Now, Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So if it touches hubris, it expands it. If it touches compassion and confidence, it expands it. Whatever it touches, it expands. And Leo is that expression. But is it coming from ego or is it coming from heart? That expression of the self. Is it the wounded self or is it the amazing divine aspect of the self, the healing self? So we got to make this thing personal. And so with this configuration, it's going to touch each of our charts in a different way, which means it's going to touch each of our lives in a different way. And how we respond is going to get aggregated. And it's going to start to answer the question, are we going to have that relaunch of civilization, that reflowering, or are we going off the cliff? We collectively are going to answer the question. Are we going to flourish as a species or are we going to self-destruct? I want to look at each of the planets and talk about what they mean a little bit. But first, you're probably wondering, who am I? I've not seen you before. Who are you? And the reason you haven't seen me before is because I'm one of those people who's been hiding. So that Jupiter in Leo, yeah, that hit me hard. It's like, turn the camera on, sister. Turn the camera on, do your thing, stop hiding. So a lot of us, I know I'm not the only one. Some of you are going to be watching this. You need to turn the camera on, turn the mic on, get out there, be seen, be visible, be heard, make a difference in your own way. So I'm disclosing. I've been hiding. I've had so many false starts. But when I saw this configuration, I was like, ooh, I've got a year. I better get myself in motion. It's time for me to stop making excuses. And this is what I want to talk to you about. So let's start with Pluto in Aquarius. I have Pluto in my 10th house in Virgo. It is the ruler of my whole chart, meaning that dealing with some very deep wounds, that's what I came here to do. I've come here to heal. And part of my healing is to stop hiding. And so Pluto in Aquarius represents the soul's deepest evolutionary intentions and that driving psychological metamorphosis through a death, a rebirth, and an exposure to our shadows. I'm like, damn it, why do I have to have Pluto in the area of my career? Because I'm a career girl, 30 years in technology. That's part of my identity. And so you can imagine I've had my career upended so many times. It's just not even funny. It's not funny. I'm not saying I'm a fan of Pluto, but you know what? You don't have to be a fan of Pluto. Pluto is a fan of you, and it intends to help you transform. Not in a small way. We're not talking about self-improvement. We're not talking about getting a little better. We're talking about the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, okay? And Pluto in Aquarius really is asking us as a whole, generationally, to tear down those old societal structures. The pride and the power of the old guard. It's time for them to give up their reign. And it's forcing humanity to revolutionize. Now look at that word, revolutionize. How it uses power, technology, and collective collaboration. And you see the state of the world. We've been extremely reckless. That center of power has been very, very toxic, and it's getting very loud and very insistent that things are not going to change. And Pluto says, oh yeah, it's going to change whether you like it or not. It's going to change one way or another. So we want to bring in that change more gracefully. We don't want the disruption to have all this collateral damage. We don't want to have all this chaotic undoing. And it is our collective work together that will determine, is this going to be a hard labor? Are we going to birth this world through like hard, unimaginable labor? Or are we going to have a more mild and tolerable labor? That's the part we get to decide. So Pluto is going to show us our shit, and then it's going to ask us to clean it up. Here's your shadow. Here's your shadows in your society. Here's, the E-files. Here's the dictator governments. Here's the hubris of the tech bros and the people that want to replace everything with AI. Here's all of that. Here's that. Let me show you. Let me show you your shadow side. Here's the religions that say they are of God, but they're not. They might be a God, but not the God, okay? It's going to show us all of that, and it's just going to stir it up and all that muck. We're seeing it. This is where we are now. And it's going to be more. It's going to get more intense. We're going to see it. It's going to be in our faces. You think like now the Uranus is like the awakener, like the thunderbolt revolution. And we need to understand and realize that those who hold the power, they are not going to surrender it willingly. So that brings us to the next part. Uranus in Gemini. Uranus entering Gemini signifies a massive evolutionary leap for the collective consciousness, focusing on how we process information, communicate, and innovate. So here we're right back where we're talking about technology, we're talking about deep fakes, we're talking about propaganda, we're talking about news that doesn't report the whole story. We're talking about our politics. We're talking about the new face of corporations that doesn't care anything about people. It's profits first. It's talking about how we've allowed our educational system to be butchered. So now kids are coming out of school, they can't even read, they can't reason, and now we're giving them AI, they can't write a paragraph, don't have reading comprehension, don't have critical thinking skills. Uranus is saying, I'm putting this in your face, and I'm going to create so much disruption and chaos around this because I want you to course correct. There's just always the option. Every one of these planets is here to help us course correct and to operate in the higher octave of those energies rather than the lower octaves. So that misuse of the gifts, the information, the technology, the power, the misuse is going to become more and more apparent. And it's having a direct conversation with Pluto because the awakener, the revolutionary, is working with the disruptor transformer. So now those two, it's a trine. They're on the same page. But how are we going to experience that? Disruption and death and rebirth? Neither of those are like gentle problems. Neither of those have gentle touches. So when we expect this golden age to just come in so gentle, we might want to rethink that. But can we take these energies and embody them and work with them in an intelligent and in a state of surrender and trust? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And that's what it's asking us. I'm about to disrupt some things. Are you ready? I'm about to put these things out for you to deal with. Are you ready? And then it's reaching over and it's touching Pluto. And Pluto says, yep, let's do it. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now we get to Neptune. Neptune in Aries. Neptune, usually, the invisible realm, the spiritual, the visionary, the imagination, the illusory. But it's in Aries. Aries is not quiet. Aries is not invisible. Aries is not silent. Aries is a warrior. So now we see the archetype of the spiritual warrior being called forth. This is a spiritual war. We're at war for humanity's future. We're at war for our children's future. We're at war with the architect behind this whole thing is not a human. It is a power and it's a presence, and we don't really understand these things, but it uses humans. And so the spiritual warrior is being called to the battlefield. Think of ice, and think of people who literally sacrificed their lives. We don't have to go back in history. We've seen this over and over again. We don't have to go back in history. You can just go back a couple of weeks and see how people are coming out and they're saying, no more, no more. We're not tolerating this. The people over the data centers, it's not a red thing, it's not a blue thing. They're coming together saying no more. So now, what is so beautiful, because it's going to force us to stop being a red party and a blue party and be a human party. Because that polarization is a weapon of the enemy. And so Neptune is calling forth the spiritual warrior. And how that looks for you is going to be determined by how those energies hit your individual charts. I'm using my words as weapons. I'm using my voice as a weapon. I'm making a stand. I'm going to stop hiding. I will be here. I will be here. I'm fighting for humanity. Now, those three, that's some hardcore energy. That's like, you got Pluto, death and rebirth, Uranus, the awakener, revolution, and then you got Neptune, the spiritual warrior. That's some, that's some hardcore energy. There's nothing gentle there. So thank you. What did Creator do? We're gonna time this so that Jupiter's coming in, because Jupiter's bringing in optimism and a lightness and Leo, that royal feeling, that confidence, that generosity of the good king, the good queen, shining, expanding, optimistic. This is the lightness we're getting to counteract those harsher energies. This is the lightness. And for many, this is the stretch to show up, to be seen, to shine your light, to own your awesome, share your gifts, not be afraid, not be shy, not worry about, oh, I'm not comfortable on camera. Get rid of your AI avatar. This is about you showing up. It's about you speaking up. It's about you bringing your gifts into the world. Jupiter in Leo says, you're ready. Let's do it. It's showtime. Let's do it. And it's there to help us. It's there to help us. So Jupiter brings in that lightness, and we're going to need it. So this energy, that lighter, optimistic energy is going to be with us for a whole year. I'm going to go through some dates in the next slide. I'm going to go through some dates because we need to tap into this, because the rest of these energies, this is like a 7-year project. And Pluto is like a 20-year project. And Neptune is like the 13-year project. This is not going to be handled in a moment, but we're getting a year of Jupiter in Leo. We're getting a year to bring in some joy. Because the next place Jupiter is going is into Virgo. And that's going to be about scaling up, getting our talents honed, doing some work. Now we go back to work. But Leo is not about the work. Leo is about the performance, showing up, self-expressing. So we want to really, really, really take advantage of Jupiter in Leo. And when we see Jupiter, let me show you this slide. So this is Jupiter's gift and Pluto's warning. So June 30th of this year through August of 26 of this year, we're going to have that opposition. So we're going to probably see some things happen to the end of August where some kings are going to fall. Yeah, we're probably going to see some things get upended where people thought they were untouchable, where people thought they could just get away with anything and everything. And the hammer's coming down because it's an abuse of power. But where we want to look at is making sure we are not coming from ego and arrogance. We want to make sure we are operating from our heart. So that's June 30th through the 26th of August. And then August 4th through September 22nd of this year, Jupiter in Leo is going to trine Saturn in Aries. So what's that about? So that's an energy of, we call it a rite of passage, focusing on personal authority, authentic identity, and independent agency, and being self-disciplined and grow up. Grow up. Stop acting like children. We got to stop acting like children. Children, like they're going to wait. And, children need to be taken care of. And we are children of the divine. We are children of the divine, so we will be taken care of. But we're not little children. So this is a time we're going to have to really start using our self-discipline, because it might get hard. It will get kind of hard, and we're going to have to do some work. Saturn is not about fluff and, let's play, it's playtime. Saturn is not playtime. Saturn is self-discipline. So now you put self-discipline with Jupiter and Leo, it's like taking your shine serious. And now you're going to polish it. You're going to level it up. You're going to make it brighter, and you're going to make it bigger, and you're going to do the work to make sure you put your gifts in the right place and present them to the right people in the right way. And then September 30th, 2026, all the way to March 7th, 2027, Jupiter and Leo, trine Aries. Aries, goddess of war, Mars' sister. She, not that she's really a she, but there's a whole, backstory about the feminine and the treatment of the feminine that has caused so much wounding. And she's pissed. And so working with that energy, again, spiritual warrior, we want to do this from the higher octave and not sink down and become like the evil bitch. Come on now. That's not where we want to come from with this energy. So it's a healthy competition where it's rivals. My husband and I, we are into anime, so they have rivals, and your rival is not your enemy. Your rival makes you better and you make your rival better. You keep pushing each other to level up. And also another aspect of Aries is where talent and skill triumphs over privilege and power. So now we're getting back to that Pluto, the misuse of power. Now the talented people, the skilled people can start winning. Just because you have privilege and just because you have power doesn't mean you should win the game. So now that energy is going to start becoming available to us in a different way, in a different configuration, starting September 30th of 2026, all the way to March 7th. This is time to shine, people. Time to shine. So this is our Jupiter time. This is our Jupiter and Leo time. And like when I'm working with my clients, I'm telling we got to get you aligned so that you are tapping into the highest notes and the highest expression of this energy. Because if you miss this window will not be back for 12 years. So I want to invite you to make it personal. And so I'm going to issue a personal challenge. And for Pluto, I'm going to ask that you focus on self-actualization, becoming yourself, your best self, and avoid that cold selfishness that we see that comes with that arrogance and that hubris and that disdain, considering people inferior and insignificant. So individuation, being your best self. And for Uranus, I want you to focus on breaking from the social conditioning. It could be family, it could be your race, it could be your culture, it could be your religion. Breaking from that pressure to conform when you know it is violating your soul's intention. There's a place where you have to break from the tribe. And it takes some courage to do that because our biology thinks when you break from the tribe, now we at risk because it's still relating to the days when you could be out there and you get eaten by the lion when you by yourself, but with a group, you got a better chance of surviving. But that's not our reality anymore. But our biology is way back. Our biology hasn't updated. So we have to intentionally and consciously work to override those fear programs. Neptune, show up, stand up, and live your spirituality in the world, not just behind closed doors. And Jupiter, express your true self unapologetically and from the heart. Be visible. Embody your unique brand of light and let that light shine. So I'm going to close now. Every human has a unique cosmic story to tell. And that is the story your soul came to live. And as the human avatar, you are the one that gets to decide if that story is a success or a flop. So I'm going to invite you to make it a grand success. Make it an epic story. Live the life you came to live. And I want to thank you for joining the evolutionary party. It's a party. And we've all been invited.